Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is August the 16th, 2026. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Happy Sunday. Hopefully, it's been a fun day for you. As for me, as for mine, it's been a pretty good day. It's been a pretty good weekend. Had a little bit of thorns to it, but overall, good. Thumbs up. But we can go ahead and run it all back. Let's go ahead and start with Friday, if you will. Overall, like I said, Friday was good at the start, good throughout most of it until I just hit like the worst part of my actual weekend. That kind of was just like, ugh. But we started up, we had a good amount of sleep, got myself together, we got to work. Work was pretty even keeled. I got to stay at the crusher for the whole day, which was nice. Everything kind of just lined up for that. It feels like we're finally catching up and we're getting back on our stride at work. You know, it's been pretty crazy with the crusher being off and then finally getting back on, that's been a whole thing, but it felt like we were kind of, getting ourselves back together, getting ourselves back up, up and running and everything. But at the end of the day, I clock out and I'm going to drop off my coworker, and I just get some of the worst pain flare up. And it came out of nowhere. I really still don't know what caused it, because usually I feel like sometimes I have triggers that are kind of related to like either caffeine or alcohol, but I'd pretty much been good, throughout this entire week, been water the entire day. So it just really hit me out of left field. And I literally wasn't able to go work out. I was able to get home, which was good, but I was just pretty much just messed up for about an hour or so. Was able to finally, get myself better in a way. I did like a home workout that was all right. I felt like my pain was manageable enough that I could leave the house. So I was able to get to Zoe's for the weekend, which was good. But yeah, that really threw me off, knowing that I'm like, okay, I've been on this antibiotics now for, I don't know, about a week, 2 weeks now. We're still having symptoms, and we're still having like moments that are really bad pain flare ups. So, am I too surprised by this? No, not really. This is part of the course of kind of what I was dreading, what I was worrying about, unfortunately. But, we're just going to keep on sticking to the plan. I am glad that at least for the rest of the weekend, I didn't have any pain flare ups of that nature. Also, some of the auxiliary medication that my doctor gave me was helpful, so that was good. But yeah, it was definitely a bummer start to the weekend. My vibe was kind of off, but we did get to Zoe's okay. That was good. We watched some Abbott Elementary, and I just, due to my situation, I really didn't want to. I wanted to go and have like a sit down situation where we ate a burger or something like that. But we kind of tweaked it and just went to Swenson's again. I know we kind of went there recently. But it did hit. It was yummy. I got a pub burger. Essentially, it was like a pretzel situation, and they had an onion ring on it. I got an extra patty and bacon. And then I got onion rings with barbecue sauce. And then we got a chili cheese coney to split, Lady and the Tramp style. And then Zoe got a double quarter pounder with tots. And then, we also both got milkshakes, which were very yummy. Granted, I think we've tried Swenson's dessert before. I think the first time she took me there, I think we got a fried cheesecake, and that was pretty good. But this was better. The milkshakes are definitely very yummy. I might definitely hit that up again next time. I got a chocolate milkshake with caramel and malt powder added in. And it hit. It was giving UDF. It was very yummy. And then Zoe got an Oreo one, and I think she got, or I think no, she got a hot fudge one with Oreo add-on. I think that's what she got. Or not Oreo add-on, cookies and cream, whatever. It was one of those. One of those. I think it was cookies and cream. That's my final answer, Regis. Also hit very good. So we ate that. We chilled. On top of Abbott Elementary, throughout the whole weekend, we watched a lot of Survivor. I feel like we got through like 2 seasons, and we started another one. So yeah, we're motoring. We're moving through. Um, let's see, what did we do Saturday? Saturday we got up. We had Zoe made pancakes, chocolate chip pancakes, bacon, eggs, and then we added on some sourdough toast as well. All very yummy, very good. Then throughout the day, like we had a plan because I was planning on eating pizza at some point. I'm a pizza guy. I gotta have my pizza day, pizza night, and usually like the plan default is like Raymundo's. Um, but Zoe had been doing some couponing and was open to the idea of Papa John's, which made me happy. I always love when Zoe's like down to have like something a little bit extra trashy because that's just like, that's kind of my speed, my style. And so, I was like, okay, I'm feeling a little nostalgic, maybe Papa John's. But in my heart, I knew that really wasn't the move. But that being said, I was like kind of like mostly down. But the way that the night had went, or the evening it went, we wound up like taking like a super long nap, and that was my bad. Like I was like, oh yeah, we can do a little snuggle, we can like sleep for like, I don't know, like, just a little bit. And sure enough, like we woke up and I think it was like around like 11 o'clock or something, and I was like, ugh, dang it, dang it, dang it, dang it. And we were looking at our pizza options. Pretty much everything was closed except for like, kind of like the fast food trashy pizza. So Papa John's it was. We got pepperoni and pineapple with stuffed crust. Then we got this cheese bread, but it was supposed to be like a Tuscan 6 cheese situation, and then buffalo wings. Now, this shit hit exactly as one would expect a Papa John situation to hit. Generally mid. And I don't want to say mid in terms of like mid, bad, terrible. Mid, though, in the sense of this is very middle of the road, very medium. We could have definitely gotten better, from a better pizza from another pizza chain. It was one of those things that just didn't hit. It didn't scratch the nostalgia that I was hoping it would. But overall, it was pizza. I was happy to have it, happy to eat it. I say the most disappointing thing was the cheese bread though. Like the default cheese bread would have been fine, I think, but this Tuscan shit, it just was giving flat. Like it was giving just like, okay, threw a bunch of seasonings on there, it just wasn't yummy. And the buffalo wings were just giving raccoon knuckle a little bit, but they were edible. Had some ranch, but yeah, hey, dinner with my baby, pizza party with my baby, had some Survivor going. It was a vibe, it was good. That leads us into Sunday. Sunday, I did I got a good walk in, which was nice. Walked the block a little bit. And then I, picked up some flour, which was going to be used for a sweet little dish later. But, got in a good walk, hung out for a bit. And then when Zoe got herself together a little bit, we wound up going to Big Apple Bagel. And Big Apple Bagel is it's always a hit. It has never really missed for us, I don't think, which knock on wood, I hope it never does. But this time I did switch up the order a little bit. I did get the usual pretzel bagel with the lox, lox and cream cheese. I did get a jalapeno cheddar cream cheese, which I will say wasn't the best. I think just the default jalapeno cream cheese is a little bit better in my opinion, but that's just me and my preference. Instead of a chocolate chip bagel with chocolate chip cream cheese, I got a blueberry bagel with blueberry cream cheese. Also good. And then Zoe got a turkey bacon club. I will say though, I guess, I'm talking a little bit of smack here on Big Apple Bagel. The bacon was not giving. The bacon was like giving bacon strips. It was giving like something kind of artificial. Like she like pulled a couple pieces out and like let me try a little bit of it. And it was like, it tastes like a shrimp chip or something. It was weird. I don't know what happened there. So technically a bit of a ding on Big Apple Bagel, but we will be back, of course. Let's see. Then we wound up, coming back home. chilling. Zoe had to pick up a few extra ingredients that we forgot, but she did come back and make this. It is a thing she has made before. I believe it is like a cinnamon roll cake or a cinnamon roll bread or something like that. Essentially, it is just a cinnamon roll without it being a cinnamon roll. It's just a big square that you can cut up, and it is divine. It is so yummy. I have been scheming on her to make it throughout the weekend, and we got the ingredients for it, and it ripped again. She definitely flicked the wrist for that. That and some Survivor. We didn't even like put it on plates. We were just like eating it like the baking pan. It was that good. It was that yummy. So yeah, that was more or less, the boyfriend girlfriend time. I did have to, hit the gym, do some errands, do my usual Sunday evening wrap up. So I set out to do that. Did get a little bit of rain, I noticed, which, a bit of a stormy weekend, which is going to play a bit of a factor in the episode, but we'll get to that later. Anyway, did get to the gym. Gym was good. Mostly just did some cable work. I don't know. I didn't want to get too heavy, too crazy or anything like that. Did some this, that, and the third, if you will. Did some cardio, and then we got out of there. Ran, an errand. Came back home. Actually realizing now I didn't stretch. Oops a daisy. But did have my little creatine water. Did some research for tonight's episode. And here we are, ready to yap about that. But yeah, let's go ahead and do our startup and let's get into the news. All right. Our first story comes from CNBC. Luigi Mangione pleads guilty in federal case related to United Healthcare CEO killing. Luigi Mangione pleaded guilty Friday in New York federal court to stalking United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson before fatally shooting him on a Midtown Manhattan street in December of 2024. Mangione's lawyers immediately afterwards filed a motion in New York State court saying that the charges of murder and multiple firearms counts against the Ivy League graduate in that court for Thompson's slaying should be tossed out under the state's double jeopardy law because of his federal plea, which is a big deal. I mean, not only is he pleading, guilty to this, it now sets up an issue or a potential issue where it's like, hey, you might have just cut it out now where we don't even have to deal with the state. Also, I was, been informed just to like kind of listening to podcasts and stuff that he wanted to make this plea specifically for the federal charges so that you can hopefully get into federal court, which is a better situation for you, jail wise, prison wise. I don't know. I guess a jail, prison, whatever. Anyway. So that way, it's a better prison sentence to actually go through in federal prison as opposed to state usually. Let's see. Mangione's lawyers, I read that. Mangione, 28, faces a possible maximum sentence of life in prison when he is sentenced on December 18th. But federal sentencing guidelines suggest a sentence in the range of 24 to 30 years in prison. So yeah, that's going to be something that's going to be up to a judge, which I think is another dice roll that Mangione's legal team has said, hey, we're going to roll the dice that this is going to be the best outcome for us to just plead to this, as opposed to trying to go and fight each and every one of these cases, which, I don't know, there's definitely a strong chance that they might lose. Let's see here. Thompson's company, a division of United Health Group, is the largest health insurer in the United States. Thompson, 50, was gunned down on December 4th, 2024 on the sidewalk outside the Hilton Hotel. Mangione said Friday in Manhattan U.S. District Court that after years of enduring severe pain from a broken back, navigating the obstacles of the health insurance system, and witnessing similar experiences of countless others, I learned that United Healthcare would be holding its annual investor conference in New York City on December 4th, 2024, although the specific location was not publicly disclosed. He told Judge Margaret Garnett that he then emailed United Healthcare leadership posing posing as an investor at a firm managing over $50 billion in assets and requesting information about the conference. Unlike my previous interactions with insurers, I received an immediate response within an hour, Mangione said. Which I think this is a story that, coming back to it, I think rings true for a lot of people. I know for me, having dealt with healthcare, especially, lately this year, I can understand how it's like it can be so frustrating. It can be infuriating. It can hurt literally, physically, and emotionally, mentally, all that. Just having to deal with this kind of stuff and having to deal with not just the physical nature of your issues, but also the fiscal, and knowing that it's like, hey man, I'm doing the best I can here. We're supposed to be in this fucking thriving country and these people are making so much fucking money. Why can't I now use this money to help myself? Like in Mangione's situation, he had a fucked up back and it's like, this has completely hampered my way of living, my way of life. And, he felt a way about it. I think that's obviously very understandable. I think that's something that a lot of people have tapped into. Let me see. Let's read a little bit more. Before traveling to New York, I used a 3D printer to make part of a gun, and I equipped the gun with the silencer and magazine, he said. My travel to New York and email to United Healthcare was with the intent to shoot Brian Thompson. I shot Brian Thompson in Manhattan and he died, said Mangione, who graduated from the University of Pennsylvania in 2020. When I did so, I understood that my actions would place him in fear of death or serious bodily injury. I knew what I was doing. I knew what I was doing was illegal. 5 days after gunning down Thompson, Mangione was apprehended by local police in a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, when a person recognized him from a surveillance photo. Manhattan U.S. Attorney Jamie McDonald said he will seek a sentence of life for the charges of interstate stalking resulting in Thompson's death and use of electronic communications to stalk the CEO. Which is crazy because, when we started these, they were trying to go for terrorism charges, which is definitely something that it's like in New York, that is just not something you do, but they were willing to try it because they're like, this is so extreme. And we want to find any and every way to kind of pin this guy down, even to a potential death penalty, which once again, you just would not be seeing in a place like New York, but they're like, we are trying to try it. Let's see here. McDonald and Amanda Hooley, chief of the office's criminal division, were sitting in the front row of court next to Thompson's widow and family during Friday's plea hearing. MS Now reported. United Healthcare executives sat in the row behind them. I'm going to skip a bit here. It is not clear if the trial will begin on September 8th, given the defense attorney's new motion asking a judge to toss out the state charges because of Friday's plea in federal court. Under New York's double jeopardy law, a person cannot be separately prosecuted for offenses based upon the same criminal act, a state appeals court has held. Now, I'm curious about this because I believe he's copying to the stalking charge, right? And I guess, and how he is going about saying it, he's saying in this stalking charge, I did murder him. And this is what I'm copying to all of that. Does that negate it then, since essentially he is copying to a murder charge, and if he gets an adequate sentencing to match that, does that work? Or does it not work? So I do think this is going to be very interesting from that legal perspective, which is why I'm sure we will be coming back to the story soon, at least sooner than later. Let's see. Despite this being a single isolated event, Mr. Mangione has been unfairly treated since the outset in every way. His lawyer, Karen Friedman Agnifilo, told reporters in the plea after the plea hearing, he's been treated differently from every other defendant charged with this offense in New York. All right. So yeah, that's more or less where we are going to leave this for now. Like I said, I'm sure I have more takes and, more summations on this shit to come, but, this was obviously very big, very important. And I was like, damn it, it sucks that this is dropping on Friday and I'm not going to be able to talk about it. Also, a couple other things kind of popped off, that we are about to roll into. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to our next story from, Reuters. Thousands evacuate after Indonesia quake kills 53. Aftershocks hamper rescue efforts. Let's see, around 5,000 people have been evacuated after a magnitude 7.7 earthquake rocked eastern Indonesia, killing at least 53 people. blocking roads and causing landslides, authorities said on Sunday. They added that more than 130 people have been injured, with many with broken bones. Saturday's quake was the Southeast Asian nation's deadliest since 2022. Since a 2022 quake killed hundreds in West Java. More than 3,000 people in Indonesia's Sika region, one of the hardest hit, self-evacuated or were in a sports arena, according to the country's National Disaster Mitigation Agency, known as BNPB. Some residents were stranded outside collapsed homes under makeshift tents made out of tarpaulin, while others received treatment in a tent outside the local hospital. A sprawling archipelago of 290 million people, Indonesia straddles the Pacific Ring of Fire, seismically active where tectonic plates meet, triggering frequent earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. At a now closed port of Mamure, littered with debris from collapsed roofs and walls, residents told Reuters they were scared of aftershocks. The disaster agency said on Sunday nearly 1,000 aftershocks have been recorded since the quake, which obviously is a big reason why people immediately when they feel an earthquake, no matter how big or how small, they get out of buildings, especially if you're in an area, a region that is known for this. It becomes a really built-in habit where you're like, hey, that is the first thing we need to do. And you don't go right back in because you never know when an aftershock is going to happen. And it really is kind of about waiting that. It's the extra fear that kind of comes with an initial earthquake. But yeah, the rest of this is more stories and testimonials from people who got to obviously go through this. It's very sad. Obviously, my condolences with all the people. It seems like we're really covering a lot of earthquakes lately, but I know these things because they happen. They are natural disasters. It's sad every time. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on. Speaking of natural disasters, bad fucking weather in this situation, from NPR, multiple people dead as flooding continues in Indiana. At least 6 people across multiple counties in Indiana have died related to historic flooding. While some of the worst hit areas are beginning to recover, severe weather is expected to impact the region on Sunday. Some parts of the state received more than 11 inches of rainfall over 3 days, beginning August 11th, according to a preliminary report issued by the National Weather Service. Thunderstorms are expected to move across central Indiana late Sunday evening and could cause additional flooding in areas already impacted by the storms, according to the National Weather Service. Let's see. Indianapolis Mayor Joe Hogsett on Saturday said on social media that the city is experiencing the most severe flooding in 30 plus years, but floodwaters have now started to recede and the city has reopened some of the floodgates, according to the Indianapolis Department of Public Works. Let's see here. Flooding is expected to continue along the White River in Anderson, Indiana, which rose to a record 24.9 feet, and along the Wabash River and the East Fork White River. Let's see, more than 128,000 people across the state were without power as of Sunday afternoon, according to NIPSCO, the local power company. As crews work to make repairs, communities are coming together to help one another. Let's see. There's more details here, but actually, and then also I think Donald Trump approved some, or made an emergency declaration, which allows Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, to assist with recovery efforts of the storm. Actually, I need to look this up. It's a bit of an audible, but I think Hawaii also had some weather as well. Let me check. Tropical storm Lala. So let me hit a quick rundown here. That is not the link I need. I'm just going to use the BBC. About 100 homes swept away after Hurricane Lala lashes Hawaii. And of course, I'm getting paywalled. That's okay. Audibles. All right. Hawaii has been hit by flash floods and mudslides that have swept away homes, and after a Category 1 Hurricane Lala skirted Big Island, leaving one person dead in a car accident. So yeah, I at least wanted to kind of highlight both of those. But like I said, that really wasn't on the main docket. I wanted to kind of add that in there. We have one more, or another story, I should say. Actually, 2 more. This one is from The Independent. Excuse me. Burnham says death of former University of Cambridge professor Jason Arde is a tragedy on so many levels. The death of former Cambridge professor Jason Arde is a tragedy and should be a moment of reflection, the Prime Minister said during a visit to Cornwall. The academic, who resigned following a plagiarism row, was found dead at a property in Battersea on Friday afternoon. His family said they are in shock to have lost this amazing father, partner, brother, uncle, and son, adding the campaign of misinformation was too much for him. Professor Arde told a friend he felt he couldn't go on in a voice note sent hours before he died. It emerged on Saturday. Speaking on Saturday, Andy Burnham told reporters it's a tragedy on so many levels, but particularly just for everybody who knew Jason. His family, obviously, his friends, we think of them today. I'm skipping the rest of his statement. Anyway, Sir Simon Baron Cohen, University of Cambridge professor and director of Autism Research Center, told the BBC he had spoken to Professor Arde on Friday morning. He was being subjected to relentless scrutiny, including ridicule, discrediting absolutely every detail of his life, and he wasn't coping with the loss of his career, the loss of his reputation, and he felt he couldn't go on. He used those words in voice notes. Let's see. Sir Simon said Professor Arde was a kind and gentle man who had been bombarded by every media outlet and uses a lightning rod to examine diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI policies. Which is something when we initially covered the story, I had already kind of talked about, was like something that was already a big talking point here that, yes, clearly, like I said, I had my suspicions. I'm like, yeah, I feel like this guy really wasn't on the level. He was doing a little bit of scamming, a little bit of frauding to get where he was in that regard. But that being said, I still felt like, hey, he overcame a lot. I do feel like he was qualified for it. And at the end of the day, yeah, he had, did some fairy tales and stuff, but that doesn't denote that it's like, hey, you can be a young person of color, whoever, and be in this field. You can thrive in this field. You can become a professor and do great work. But yeah, it is a shame that, all this was something that pushed him, or, to a place where, he mentally was like, hey, I do not want to, I guess, be here anymore. It's definitely unfortunate. It is good to see that at least he reached out and had like friends and colleagues and people to talk to. But you always hope that in those situations where it's like, hey, if this isn't working, that you do take it to a level of, I'm going to try to get professional help. I'm going to try to do the best I can to stay here and be here. Because as bad as it might have been or felt for Arde, it wasn't the end of the world. There is more beyond this. You could have recovered from this, whether, it was real or fake or whatever, whether you were going to go on and fight those allegations and rumors or whatever, and it was all going to come to light, or hey, there was some fudging. There were some, things that were made up. Okay, so you were a scammer and you lived your life or whatever. Maybe scamming is too harsh of a word. You did some things that really weren't there. You fluffed some stories. You added a little bit of mythos to your life. You can survive that. Like I said, you still have other accolades, you still have other accomplishments and achievements that you can hang your hat on. And overall, just being a good person, overall being a person who, means a lot to people. That is in and of itself, I think, is an important thing. I know I'm kind of in the weeds about this, but it is important to reach out. It is important to, keep fighting to stay. I know that shit can be hard and shit can be rough, but you are always going to be missed in this world. It is always worth staying in this world. That's my personal opinion on the matter. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people who, would agree with that, in your life. So, always, I implore you to always try to make the effort. Anyway, there's obviously more testimonials here, more talk. If there are any more details that come up, by all means, we'll talk about it. I do always try to add levity to these kind of situations, but in this situation, I don't really want to definitely ham up too much or hammer on too hard on it. So we're going to go ahead and move on. Our last story, I feel like it's a little bit lighter, but we are talking about mental fitness, which is, I think, an interesting concept. But really, this is a scam. We're talking scams, and we're talking celebrities. So, we love that. Let's go ahead and take our last break, and we'll close it out with this story from NBC News. All right. Selena Gomez and her mom accused of fraud over their mental health startup. Superstar Selena Gomez and her mother are accused of defrauding investors of their mental health startup, Wondermind, in a federal lawsuit filed Thursday. Wondermind, which was co-founded by Gomez, her mother, Mandy Teefee, and Daniela Pearson in November of 2021, touts mental fitness practices and tools. The suit accuses Wondermind and its founders of falsely representing the company's infrastructure, leadership, and partnerships to investors and concealing the alleged fraud for more than 3 years. The founders told investors they would build a Wondermind app, boasted advertising deals, and secured celebrity cover stories, none of which came to fruition, the complaint says. Investors poured nearly $1.2 million into Wondermind, but the trio falsely represented the company's plans to make it profitable, the suit says. It alleges that investors were kept in the dark until 2 bombshell media reports portrayed Wondermind as a company in utter disarray. The suit was filed in federal court in Delaware by Wondermind SRS 44 LLC and Bespoke Wondermind SPV, I think SPVI LLC, limited liability companies that invested in the startup. They accused the company and the founding trio of securities fraud, common law fraud, and breach of contract, and are seeking rescission, meaning a legal cancellation of the investment contract as well as damages. In a statement, Pearson says that she categorically denies the allegations against her and welcomes the opportunity to present concrete documentation and financial records that establish the facts. To be clear, she has never used investor funds for personal expenses. Quite the opposite. Daniela invested her own money into the business and did not draw a salary from the company, she said in a statement. Representatives from Wondermind, Gomez, and Teefee did not immediately respond to requests for comment Thursday. Let's see. Investors say the suit let me run that back. Sorry. Our investors say in the suit that they believe the money they gave Wondermind would rapidly scale and build a full suite of company products, including an app, a podcast, an editorial publication, and other wellness products. Which this just sounds so nebulous and just like, so you're doing mental fitness and you're gonna, or whatever, and this is gonna be for my mental health, and I'm gonna get on this and it's gonna feel like a social media app, but it's gonna have like podcast stuff, clips from celebrities, and it's all gonna make me feel better to be on it. And like, I don't want to blame any victims here, which I guess the victims would be the potential investors, but it's like, why are you hearing this? And you're going like, okay, yeah, mental health's good, better help, or whatever. Like, this is like that. This will be good. But I'm so all in on it because Selena Gomez is a part of it. Like, I don't know. I'm just not I'm not Disney coded enough, I guess, to be like, oh, that's the name that's buying me on all this bullshit, man. Because when I hear something like this, I'm taken back to the era of a John Krasinski doing a podcast telling you how like everything's gonna be okay. And it's like, I thought we proved at that point that this is kind of stupid because like he didn't do that shit for more than a year. He just kind of took the paycheck and left. And like, I'm not calling that necessarily a scam. I'm just saying that's just how this shit kind of works for the podcasting world or the sphere. So I feel like if I heard this pitch, if someone is selling me this in an elevator or whatever, and I'm a shark, I'm an investor, right? I'm out. I'm so fucking out. I don't see how I'm making any money on what you're trying to sell me here. Like, you got me in the first sentence of like, hey, we're going to work on your mental fitness through this app. I don't see how we do that. Like, no thanks. And I'm sure you're going to have a subscription as a customer to buy in so you can see all these cool clips and all this. It's giving like masterclass, and you can look that up. That's like, I think that's like a YouTube style tutorial situation. You're going to have like, you know, Tyler Ninja Blevins telling you how to become a cool guy and how he did it through gaming and Fortnite. Like, what? Or I don't remember other people who did the shit, but it just seems very useless. And I feel like this is giving all of those things I'm kind of mentioning. Anyway, They also believe that the company's value lay in Gomez's involvement as a celebrity with a massive, loyal fan base. The suit alleges that Wondermind had indicated that Gomez would be intimately involved in the company as head of marketing and involved in publicity. Look, at the end of the day, I kind of would rather her just be involved in the publicity, and you're telling me that other people that I know and trust are involved in, running the marketing and the behind the scenes shit. That's just how I'm thinking. But hey, maybe I don't know the level of girl boss that Gomez is hitting. Okay, maybe she's breaking glass ceilings left and right. Okay, but none of these things happen. The suit says Gomez purported to sign a contract obliging her or obligating her to perform and then ignored it. The partnerships did not exist. The initiatives never materialized. The app was never built. It says. And for 3 years, while the company quietly collapsed around them, not one of its founders, officers, or directors said a word to the investors whose money was funding the collapse. It's just feeling like a scheme to me. The investors also alleged in the suit that the defendants did not provide timely updates about the status of their investments and the company's operations unless they were pressed. In the limited updates they did provide, they both affirmatively misrepresented the status of the company's operations and concealed material information about ongoing issues at the company, the complaint says. Investors were kept in the dark, the suit alleges, for more than 3 years. Then came the August 2025 Forbes article focused on Pearson with the headline, "Smoke and Mirrors, How This Entrepreneur Exaggerated and Self-Promoted Her Way into Turmoil." Pearson was described to investors as a millionaire executive whose past business, the daily newsletter, The Newsette, of which she was CEO, generated $40 million a year. The suit says investors were also told she had secured partnerships with JP Morgan and Fidelity. But the Forbes report cast scrutiny and said Pearson exaggerated her readership and the valuation of her newsletter. The suit says that investors contacted Tiffy for an explanation after the article published that she responded that Pearson had allegedly misappropriated investor funds, including the plaintiff's funds, to fund her lavish lifestyle, including her $60,000 monthly rent for her New York City apartment and monthly expenses before she was ousted from the company in 2023. Ooh. Yet Tiffy, I might be saying that wrong, but we're sticking with Tiffy, had never informed investors about the alleged misappropriated funds before the article was published, the suit says. An article in The Cut published September 3rd titled "What Happened at Wondermind," based on interviews with current and former employees, alleged the company was falling apart. The accounts in The Cut collectively show that from the outset, Wondermind had no plan for its future, much less a plan for achieving a multi-billion-dollar valuation, the suit says. The article alleged that Tiffy had a long-running substance abuse problem that impeded her capacity to helm the company, that Gomez sought to distance herself from Wondermind based on a long-running family dispute with Tiffy, and that Pearson had been ousted from the company based on a dispute with Tiffy, the suit says. So this is so fucking messy. Nearly all three parties that these investors are relying on to carry this business all the way in, which once again, at the top, I am hearing this and I say, hey, mental health sounds really great to invest in terms of finding solutions and helpful. And maybe, yeah, I'm going to milk the cow on that because I'm a greedy fucking investor pig guy or whatever. But everything else does not fit. And I would be like, I think this is stinky. I think this is messy. I think I got to be out of it. Anyway. Let's see. The article, the suit claims, proved the company was in a state of financial calamity and that there was no legitimate enterprise in the works. 2 months later, in November, investors sent the defendants a notice of rescission demanding the return of their funds, according to the suit. Their suit. The defendants did not respond in substance to the notice, the suit says, but continued to lull and mislead the plaintiffs. After notice of rescission was sent, Tiffy allegedly contacted Bespoke's representative, suggesting that the investor should not file a suit claiming the company had an escrow account to return the investments This week's lawsuit says when Andy Resnick, part of the Bespoke, followed up on the for details of the account and the return of the funds, Tiffy disappeared, the suit says, which that is a bad red flag when someone's like, hey, don't file that lawsuit. Don't actually go to the police. Don't do any of that shit, okay? We're gonna work this out. And however they say they're gonna work it out, don't believe them. They are dragging for time. They realize that this is now the final act, and they are gonna try to be in the wind. I mean, that's just usually how this shit goes. The suit details several allegations of investors being given updates that ended up being misleading or false. I think we're just gonna, kind of zoom ahead towards the end here. Overall, their suit accuses Wondermind and all the defendants of securities fraud, alleging they misrepresented the company's finances, Gomez's involvement, Pearson's business background, and Tiffy's fitness, as she had never held a similar startup CEO role. Damn, they weren't even talking mental fitness, because I would also kind of say that might be something in question here. They are further accused of common law fraud and equitable fraud. Pearson, in addition, is accused in the suit of securities fraud for what it alleges as were mistreatments to investors, conversions for wrongly using investment funds, and unjust enrichment. Now, yeah, I think you can kind of tell as I'm kind of going about this. I do understand and quote unquote respect that investors are the victims here, but like it's just hard because every time I feel like I'm talking about shareholders, investors, it just doesn't feel good to be talking about them because I know that in some way, shape, or form, they got to get their money before I see any kind of benefit in whatever the fuck I'm getting, one way or another. That's just kind of how that shit works. It's the haves and have-nots or some shit. So yeah, it's hard for me to be like, man, I really hope they get their money. I really hope that they because it's like, why would you invest in something this bad? Like, I feel like you should not be an investor if you're investing in products like this. But hey, who am I to say? I've never made a goddamn dollar like that. And probably won't ever. Anyway, that's gonna be it. That is the episode for today. It is Sunday. It has been a fun day, so I'm not gonna shill ya on anything. Okay, no Patreon, none of that, all that. I hope you've had a really good weekend. I hope you have an amazing friggin' week, and hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye bye. Mwah.